Hey, all. We have the Vuelta Espana starting tomorrow. Tadej Pogacar is the overwhelming favorite to complete the Grand Tour trilogy. A lot of people think it's a walk in the park. This version of Tadej Pogacar this year has been very, very good. Um, but I don't think it's going to be that easy. So I wanted to ask this question. Can current Pogacar, 2026 Tadej Pogacar, beat the 2003 Backyard Baseball team in the upcoming Vuelta? I think it's going to be hard. We got some heavy hitters here. So I'm going to act as if I was the DS for this backyard baseball team. And we're going to go through it stage by stage. So first, let me go through what our team is for our backyard baseball team. So we're going to have a co-leader strategy. So first leader, the obvious one, you all know it's coming. Pablo Sanchez, the GOAT, the backyard baseball GOAT, right? Amazing. His stats are off the charts. He is just too good in backyard baseball. Um, he's a small guy, but he can really like power up those climbs. His watt per kilo on short, like long steep climbs, unbelievable. Like you think Jonas Vingegaard is good? Look at Pablo Sanchez. Second co-leader we got here is Pete Wheeler. You all know him. This guy is fast as anything, right? Just crazy, crazy fast, super punchy. And I think doing this co-leader strategy with both of them is the best way to beat Tadej Pogacar. Pete, though, you kind of just you need to give him direction. If you just let him, free roll, might not work as well. You need to give him direction. The rest, so those are going to be our co-leaders, but we're also going to have Jocinda Smith in here. Really good all arounder. Maybe not the quickest in a sprint, but like good diesel engine. She's going to be a domestique ruler and just, like hunting for stages, maybe. Also, because of the diesel, like she's a pretty good time trialist. Another domestique here, and our lead out man, Tony Del Vecchio. Not only is he going to be our lead out man, but we also need someone with attitude here. All right. The name of the game here is going to be do not let Team UAE get comfortable and stay comfortable. These last few Grand Tours, they can do whatever they want. They're super comfortable. That's why we need Tony Del Vecchio here. He is going to mess with Pablo Torres' head. Say that right now. All right. For a sprinter, this seems obvious. I think you're all thinking it, right? Keisha Phillips, insane watts at the end of a stage. Yeah, that one's pretty obvious. Another domestique, we got Marquis Dubois. Now this might be a surprise pick, but he's a good domestique. Like don't kid yourself. He's solid. I mean, he always has a frog in his pocket, right? So like he's gonna have his frog in his overalls. He's gonna, be there helping him get water for people, get food for people. I don't know. I don't think there's any rules in the UCI about having like a frog in your pocket. So as far as I'm concerned, it should be a net positive for them. We're going to have Amir Khan. This one, again, I think is pretty obvious. He's going to be a mountain domestique, our like final guy in the mountains, Sepp Kuss type a little bit, and maybe a stage hunter. We'll see. We also are going to have Stephanie Morgan in there. Pretty good all arounder, but also you need someone who like knows the game and has the smarts. And yeah, she's got it all put together. And, also a pretty good mountain domestique. Maybe can't go as far into the mountains as Amir Khan, but, she can get there. And yeah, that's going to be our team going up against Team UAE, where, we obviously have Tadej Pogacar. We got Joao Almeida, but he's coming off, some injuries and sicknesses and stuff. We got Novak, Ivo Oliveira, Sivakov, Pablo Torres, Kevin Vermarka, and Jay Vine. So a pretty good team. I personally think the backyard team is better, but we'll see. So can Tadej Pogacar beat this backyard baseball 2003 team? We're going to go through it. So stage one, we have an individual time trial, pretty short, 9.5 kilometers. The favorites are definitely Stefan Kuhn, Ethan Hayter, maybe even Tadej Pogacar. Honestly, he's obviously an incredible time trialist. I would say though, watch out for Jocinda Smith because, like I said, diesel engine, the shorter Time trial is not going to be as good for her, but like pretty explosive. And she's really been working on her GT game recently. So anyway, but not too much into that first stage. Stage two, we have a kind of like a versatile sprint stage, and it's all kind of up for grabs here because you're going to have people who could still get into the red jersey here. The favorites are going to be Mats Pedersen, Wout van Aert, Matthew Brennan. Pogacar could even compete here if he wanted to. It's kind of up and down all day. For the backyard team, the strategy today is kind of just to survive, right? We just want to get through stages like this, make sure we don't crash. And then I think even on a stage like this that's pretty up and down, we can sprint for the win with Keisha Phillips. And yeah, just too many teams will control on a stage like this to even try anything else. I think Keisha Phillips can still sprint for the win. But, if this was later in the race, because it's so up and down, I'd consider, sending someone like Jocinda Smith in the breakaway, maybe Tony Del Vecchio. But this early stage two, just let some other team control, save your resources, sprint for the win. All right. Stage three, this gets a little bit interesting here. So we have kind of like a Uniporto stage. Final climb is 19.2 kilometers at 5%. This is like the opposite of like a normal hockey stick stage in the Vuelta where it's like flat all day, but then like a crazy hard climb at the end. This is just like super easy. Easy Pogacar win here. They are going to control it. Super easy to control. The big thing here, the strategy is going to be mitigate the time loss with Pablo Sanchez. All right. Shallow climb, he's not going to do as well. But Pete Wheeler, I think this is, his stage. I think the goal is stick to Pogacar's wheel as much as you can and then challenge him for the sprint. If there's anyone who can challenge Pogacar for a sprint at the end, it would be Pete Wheeler, maybe peak Roglic. But, with the crash, don't know how he's going to go. So I think Pete could potentially challenge him for the win here, but most likely Pogacar wins, let's be honest, right? All right. Going into stage four, this is one of the only like multi-mountain stages of the race. And on stage four, very short. It's like 100 kilometers, basically. This is one of those stages where Pogacar could just kill the race here if he wants to, right? Like he could, it's 100 kilometers. He goes on 100-kilometer solos for fun, right? Like if someone attacks on the first climb, he'll just go with them. So it's not really feasible to be like, all right, we'll just, attack with multiple riders, even if we do have Pablo Sanchez and Pete Wheeler. It's just not going to happen, right? And I think UAE will just control it. It wouldn't have to control that long anyway. So most likely Pogacar will win. But I think the strategy is going to be, we're going to try and get Amir Khan and Marky Du Bois in the break, if that forms. If it forms, great, right? We're in the breakaway with them. If not, it's okay. UAE is probably going to control it at that point. So if the break goes, then I think Amir Khan can fight for the stage win. If UAE control, which they probably will, we're going to have Pablo Sanchez and Pete Wheeler just try and follow the wheels, survive as much as possible. Follow someone like Carapaz, Oscar Onley, Gall, someone like that, right? Most likely at this point, after the time trial and the easy mountain stage on stage three, and this, most likely Pete Wheeler is like probably 30 seconds or so behind Pablo Sanchez, maybe 45 seconds to a minute. So after 4 stages, that's a lot, but we're just mitigating time loss. Pogacar's, he's pretty good. All right. Now we're going into stage 5. And this is a sprint stage. Pretty easy. We're just going to do, lead out with Tony Del Vecchio, stick to the Visma train, and then sprint with Keisha Phillips. All right. Stage 6, moving on to there. Let's see. So this, again, the strategy here is basically just, we're just surviving as long as we can, keeping it as close as possible, but kind of like luring Pogacar into like a false sense of security, right? That's what we're going to try and do. So stage 6, another very good Pogacar stage. Almost every stage here is a good Pogacar stage. We got the final climb. It's pretty hard, 9.5 kilometers at 7%, but the final few Ks at 13%. So if Pogacar can get to this final climb and get a gap on Pablo Sanchez, that's bad news, right? Pablo he's a beast, but on the flat can't hang with Pogacar. So what we want to try and do is make sure that a breakaway goes that can take the bonus seconds away, but also we want to try and send like Jocinda Smith into the breakaway so that she can get over that climb. And if there is a gap on that climb between Pogacar and Pablo Sanchez, she can kind of help with that, right? Um, so that's going to be the goal. We just don't want UAE to be comfortable. We don't want them to just control all day and get to that climb and do whatever they want, right? We cannot let them be comfortable. Tony Del Vecchio is going to bully them all day, slow the chase down, let the breakaway get ahead with Jacinda Smith, and then make UAE do as much work as possible. All right. And then, yeah, hopefully she gets over that final climb. Still, most likely Pogacar wins, but I think, mitigate that loss to Pablo Sanchez. Pete Wheeler can hang with him on this climb, right? Pete, follow the wheel. And maybe you can challenge him on the sprint, but who knows? All right, stage 7. We got another mountain stage. This is a great Pete Wheeler stage. Let me just say that right now. This is the one I think that he can win. Depending on the time, maybe he could take the red jersey. I doubt it, but we're gonna have go for the stage win with Pete here. Pablo, you're gonna have to have Marquis Du Bois and Stephanie Morgan help you if you need help, pulling on that final climb. But I want Amir Khan to do like a nuclear lead out on the final climb so Pete can sprint for the win. Gonna be tough to beat Pog, but no risk, no glory. Am I right? All right, so pretty good so far. Now we're going into stage 8. Again, sprint finish. Keisha Phillips. I think she easily crests that final climb. It's not that hard. And she can pretty easily fight for the win. Again, we don't have the lead out of Abisma, but Tony Del Vecchio, I think, can be there with Laporte and then put Keisha on Brennan's wheel. That's going to be my plan. All right. Stage 9, crazy intense stage. So much climbing. If UAE have not already killed the race, they're definitely going to want to kill it here because this is a very good Pogacar stage. But this is also a really good opportunity to take time on someone like Felix Gall. So that's what our backyard baseball team is going to do. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to try and shred the descents with Stephanie Morgan. She is a demon descender. Crazy good. She's been doing this forever. She knows her stuff. She knows the lines. So she's going to be at the front. She's going to shred these descents. Hopefully we get a gap. If we do get a gap on Gall, we're going to smash it with Amir and Markey. If Tony is there too, even better. That would be amazing because he's a great ruler. He can really shred that gap open. And then hopefully we have some other guys there. Oscar Onley, Richard Carapaz, their whole teams, and they can help tear that gap open as well. But then again, the final climb isn't super steep. We don't have very many super steep climbs. It's definitely more of a Pete Wheeler climb. We want him to try and stay with Pog when he attacks. Again, Pete Wheeler, you got to think like 2022 Primoz Roglic. All right, real good on stages like this. And then Pablo Sanchez, we're just following the wheels. He's going to use Pete being ahead to be able to sit on someone like Oscar Onley's wheel. I don't know how Onley's going to react to having Pablo Sanchez on his wheel. We'll have to see when it comes to it. Hopefully, he kind of understands and he just kind of rides in the front. You know what I'm saying? So stage 9, probably Pogacar wins, but Pete, stay with him if you can. Stage 10. It's either going to be breakaway or versatile sprint. So I want to kind of play both sides here. Trek will probably try and go in the breakaway. They need to breakaways to win for Pedersen to win green. And Visma is probably just going to follow that and then have numbers if that happens. But I want Tony and Jocinda in that breakaway with them. All right. It's a really good combo. Jocinda, the thing is though, Jocinda can't sprint for the win. So she needs to have that fuga de la fuga to get away. And then once she gets a gap, like she's a diesel. Yeah, because it's just not ideal to sprint with her at the end, but it's going to be hard if there's like a group of Wout, Brennan, Laporte, and she does attack, like they're just going to close it down, right? So it's going to be tough, but I think Tony can, if we can, play both cards there, Tony can sit on, maybe he can take that opportunity to sprint. Most likely, I think we get a Wout van Aert win here. Stage 11, again, I think it's going to be a pretty easy sprint for Brennan if it comes to that. We don't want to waste bullets on this stage. All right. So we'll settle for a sprint with Keisha if it comes to that. I imagine Trek would too with Mads Pedersen. Most likely Brennan wins, but I'd back Keisha. That's just me. Stage 12. Again, the final climb, super shallow at the top, but we still got to test UAE. And especially João Almeida with his injuries. We're going to pace the second to last climb with Marquis Stephanie, finally, Amir Khan, and then see how many UAE domestiques we can drop. And hopefully we can drop even at least like some of them, right? We're going to pace the descent with Amir, maybe gap Felix Gall. And then the goal is then at this point, because it's really only steep at the bottom on this final climb, ideally, Pogi only has like Vine left, maybe Pablo Torres, and then his lead out just isn't going to be as strong. He's got to make that acceleration for himself. And I think that will help someone like Pablo Sanchez, that is, stay in the wheels. And if he can stay in the wheels during that steep section, should be pretty easy to, the draft benefit's just going to be huge the rest of the climb. So I think, if that happens and Pablo and Pete can stay in the wheel with someone like Onley, Carapaz, I think we can get a flyer winning here where we're all just sitting on Poggy's wheel and then someone like Onley goes and attacks. If we can jump on top of that with Pablo, amazing. Pete, also amazing. But yeah, fairly shallow climb. Again, Pogacar's the favorite, but I think if we can drop his domestiques, make sure that launch pad isn't as like explosive as normal, feel like we have a good chance. I don't know. All right. Stage 13, another sprint. I could definitely see a breakaway here, though. It definitely seems like a breakaway type of stage. So I'm going to send Tony Del Vecchio in the breakaway. I think he could beat most of these people in a sprint if it comes to it. But if the peloton is there, then we'll take the sprint with Keisha, right? But I do really want Tony Del Vecchio is going to be having to do a lot of the grunt work here. So if we can give him a stage win, that would be huge. Stage 14, finally, a proper hard final climb. The thing is, though, I think Decathlon are going to control this. They need to control it for Gall. He's lost time by this point. So we're going to let them control, and then we're going to set up my boy Pablo Sanchez for an attack in the final 5K. About like 5Ks to go from the finish. It's like 12% for a while. So I think that's where he's going to attack. Maybe even we just let Gall attack and Pablo counters off of him. Pete, you're just going to have to try and stay in the wheels here. I think he can do it. It's pretty like shorter explosive effort from when the attacks come. But if Pete is there at the end, he can sprint for the win. It's a flat finish. But hopefully Pablo can take some time on his rivals. Maybe someone like Carapaz. But again, the way the stage is set up, most likely Poggy wins. But I think Pablo takes time on everyone else. Maybe even Pete. Now, stage 15, we are going to shred it. All right. This is like a breakaway stage. Doesn't seem like anything that intense, but we're going to shred it. Don't let UAE get comfortable. Tony Del Vecchio is going to put the UAE team in the gutter. Hopefully he will have won the stage a few days before. He's motivated. He's going to put him in the gutter, smash it. And then we're going to attack with Pete Wheeler. Hopefully bring some Vismas along with you. It'd be like, hey, wow, I'll give you the stage win. Just pull with me, right? And then hopefully Poggy's going to have to chase some on his own because he doesn't really have the rulers, I think, that will be left at this point to be able to deal with it. Novak, I think, will be gone by then. Obviously, Pogacar can bring it back. He probably will, but we want him to do some extra work. And Pete Wheeler is just so good at these rolling terrains as well. Like if he gets a gap, I think he can TT all the way to the finish. He doesn't look it, but he's super aero. Where do you think Remco learned his techniques, right? Like from someone like Pete. He just doesn't get a lot of credit, and I think he deserves it. All right, stage 16. Start of week 3. At this point, I think Poggy's in red, maybe like a minute 45 or so ahead of Pablo Sanchez. Maybe like a minute 15 ahead of Pete Wheeler. I think he can really keep it close. My guess is that someone like Carapaz is like 2.5 minutes or so behind Onley. maybe 3 minutes. But we're going to need Carapaz later. Anyway, stage 16, sprint stage, Keisha Phillips, sprint masterclass. She's in green at this point, by the way, if it wasn't obvious already. Stage 17, Keisha bringing home the green jersey. Stage 18, we have a time trial. Kung and Hayter are going and probably Pogacar are probably going to be the favorites. The goal is just to lose as little time as possible with Pablo. I think Stephanie Morgan and Jacinta Smith can fight for the win here, though. So don't count them out. But Pog, I think, takes another 35 to 40 seconds on Pablo here. 15, 20 seconds maybe on Pete. Hopefully less. But the gap just keeps growing. All right, final two mountain stages. Stage 19, it's nothing crazy. Like UAE is probably just going to control for Pogacar to win. And my guess is that Pogi probably does win here with that final climb. But I think he wins with Pablo on the wheel, which I think is going to be important. Pete Wheeler maybe 25 seconds behind in the group with like Gall on the Carapaz. But Pablo's in the wheel. All right. So now him and Pete are like equidistant behind Pogi. Now, stage 20, we have risked it. We've survived. We've put a lot of work into, getting UAE tired, make sure they're not comfortable. And then this is the big one. So we're going to control out of the gate with Tony and Jocinda. On the first climb, we're going to send Amir Khan and Stephanie Morgan in the breakaway. All right. So, maybe the first climb we attack with Pete. Carapaz goes with us, hopefully putting some pressure on UAE. Pogi obviously is going to follow. But now if we get over that first category 1 climb, we have a group where Pogi ideally is isolated. If Almeida's in bad form, maybe Vine has had to do a lot of work throughout. Now we have a group of Pogi, Carapaz, Pete, Pablo, probably Onley, and then 2 backyard domestiques. Now that is really, really helpful, right? Now on the next category 1 climb, because we got 3 in a row before the final climb. Next category 1 climb, we're going to basically hope that Carapaz is going to attack. I think he will, right? Carapaz will always attack in things like that. And then when Carapaz attacks, we're not going to react. All right. We're going to bluff, full bluff. We will risk losing all of our podium spots. Because we're not reacting. Carapaz can have second. What does Pablo Sanchez care about second place at the Vuelta? He is here to win, and so is Pete Wheeler, to be honest. Like, Pete might not know it, but he is here to win. Carapaz goes, we don't react. Pogi's going to call the bluff. All right. It's what he always does. He's like, I have 3 minutes on Richie. What's the deal? But now we're going to roll attacks with Pete and Pablo. All right. Up this final category 1 climb. We're going to roll attacks with them. Pogi has to close it down, doing all the work. He obviously does. But now he's realizing the gap to Carapaz is what? Like 3. It's basically like 3.5 minutes at this point. So now he knows he has to do the work. So Pogi's at the front. He's pacing these last 2 category 1 climbs himself. He catches Carapaz. The second he catches Carapaz, Pete's going to attack. Immediate, right? Pogi closes that down. Now we get to the final climb. 8.3 kilometers, 10%. This is a Pablo Sanchez special right here. Amir Khan's going to do a lead out. So we've been sitting here with 2 teammates, 2 domestiques, right? And we're going to bluff. We're going to bluff. We're going to have Stephanie Morgan first, and then Amir Khan does the final lead out. Pablo Sanchez attacks an exhausted Tadej Pogacar. Pablo Sanchez is going to take 2.5 minutes, at least, on Pogacar on this stage. This is his climb. I think Pete probably eventually even drops Pogi. Probably takes like a minute or so on him. And now going into the final stage, Pablo Sanchez is in red. Maybe by like 30 seconds or so. 30, 45 seconds. It's been a crazy race. We're going into stage 21, and it is the type of profile where I think Pogacar could even still take the time back. I think though we can defend it well enough with Pablo and Pete. If not, I think we could even attack with Pete. Put some more pressure on him. I mean, he's pretty close to Pogi at this point. And we could roll attacks if we have to, but I think Pablo can win it. Maybe even Pete if Pogi attacks. I think either way, backyard team's going to take GC. It'll take a lot of things going our way. But it's not out of the question. I feel like people are just acting like it's out of the question. I do also think Keisha Phillips can challenge Pedersen and Brennan for green. And Pablo should be just like shoo-in for the white jersey. People have been saying Oscar Onley, but I think Pablo will just drop him on those longer climbs. And yeah, he should win it because I mean, isn't he like technically like 11, 12? I don't know what his when his it just says his birthday is like is August 18th. Happy belated to Pablo. But anyway, yeah, he should shoe in for the white. But yeah, Poggy thinks it's going to be an easy walk in the park, and he can get that Grand Tour trilogy pretty easily. I'd hold off on that talk for now until it happens. But yeah, like, what do you guys think? Like, if you were facing Poggy at the Vuelta, what would you do? What would you do to beat him? Is there anything that you could do? Is there anything Pogacar can do to beat this duo? Right? Let me know your thoughts. Um, yeah, I'm really curious. I'm excited to see what happens. And yeah, all right, thanks, y'all.